Hello everybody and welcome to today's video, and we have something different for you today. So instead of talking about ancestry like we normally do, we're going to talk about Familysearch.org. If you've not used Familysearch.org, you need to. The reason why is 90% of the information on it is different than what is on Ancestry. And it has a database almost as rich as Ancestry itself. So imagine how large the information pool is at Ancestry. Imagine that same one over here at Family Search, and then imagine that only 10% of those two circles intersect. Okay, so if you're with Ancestry, you're missing 90% over here if you haven't used it, and it's free. It costs nothing to use it. So let's talk a little bit about Family Search and what you need to do in order to get going to get the most out of it. Well, one, you're going to need to put in a tree. And so what you want to do is put in yourself. Here, let me put this to the home person. Put in yourself, put in your parents, put in your grandparents. And when you do that, because it's a singular tree, you'll be able to link to existing people. And if you can't, extend it on out. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you a tree. And let's look at 7 generations now. I did not put these people in here. Okay. Whereas in Ancestry, if I don't put them in, they don't show up. That's not true here. This is a one world, one tree situation. Now, this has many benefits and it has many problems. And so let's talk about those. The benefits are kind of obvious. You've got 1,000 relatives who are working on a singular person. So right here it says, James. Right here it says James Joseph Collins. Oh, that's James Joseph. So I know that that's a misspelling, and I could correct that. But somebody probably on a census report or something has a document that it was spelled like that and is going to be emphatically changing it back. So I had that right here, and you've heard me talk about it with Wilson F. Taylor. Let's pull up Wilson F. Taylor. And for literally years, his mother was marked as Peggy Smith. Now, Peggy Smith would have been born in 1751. And you see he was born in 1808, and with the youngest kid here being born right here in 1859, that would have made Peggy almost 100 years old when she was having her final children. Not the mother. That's not the mother. So there's a problem that some people can add it back, but it does keep a change log. See right here, here's a change log of everything. And, I can go back to the specifics, but, bear with me. I'm going to scroll real quick. And you can see just this, and you can click more. It goes on back, but this goes back to, 2012. I'm going to scroll back up. And here's my change log. Peggy Smith was born in 1751, was not his wife. Can we please stop adding her back as such? And the reason was, on Ancestry, a person put them in as a spouse for John Taylor Wilson's parents. And somebody else came along and found it. Say, ooh, I found a tree, and they copied and pasted it because back, I think it was like Family Tree Maker 8 or 11, somewhere back in there, you could one click and copy a whole tree segment from that one person on. And I mean, a whole bunch of erroneous information was copied and then reposted and copied and reposted. So if one person made a mistake, 50 people made a mistake, and it just grew legs. So the disadvantage of this is people that have that are really pragmatic. They're like, their paradigm says that this is right. Okay. And they're very dogmatic about the fact that it is right when it's not. But they've had a tree and they've held that tree for years and years and years, and probably shared that tree and maybe printed that tree and shared that. So they're not going to turn loose of that really soon or really easy. And so they add it back. And it went back and forth on this. Well, it happened for probably 8 or 10 years before I even knew I was, a Brown in that family. And then, I kind of carried the torch because my aunt told me that she had been fighting this fight since, '09. And then I got involved in, I think, 2018. And finally, I put this one, and no one's changed it since. So even though it's only June of this year, this is the longest ever lasted. So I'm hopeful that it stays. But you can see that here's a lot of other changes, and you can see these merges. And what happened was people put in the person from their tree, and then somebody says, oh, all of these people are the same. And then somebody takes the time to merge them. And so, Lorna, if you're out there and you hear this, thank you. It's always good to merge those together as we all work up into the different branches. Now, before you get on here and you flame somebody, remember all these people are probably your relatives. So this isn't Facebook. These people are your relatives. They all come under this person, and so they're trying to get the information right, just like you are. So just be mindful of that. They are your blood kin that you're fighting with. This isn't some person that's out in unknown land. They're related to you. So this tree, I didn't make this. Now, here's something that's really cool. Okay, birth country. We have the birth country of the United States there, and unknown. So here, these are unknown. Sources. Now look at this. This is really cool. This is a hot map. Okay, it's a heat map for are they sourced or not. The ones that are darker are very well sourced. Okay, the lighter ones, less sourced. That is really, really cool. Stories. You look here, there's no stories there. None of these have stories. I'll go back to that in a minute. Photos. There's a photo here of Dolly. Okay, up here, Mary, Senna. Okay, so I'm going to just go right here and pick that. Well, looky here. There's some more photos up in here. That's really cool. So I'm going to go and click this person. There's more than 10 photos associated with John Alexander Walker. And all of these have 1 to 4. So, by looking at this, I get this heat map of information that I never would have been able to get before. So that's really, really cool in my opinion. And going back to the stories, let's click on the home page again. And let's who we're gonna pick up. We're gonna pick Treva and the stories. Are there any stories in the extended family there? Hayes. Okay, yeah, we get up here. John Walker, James McClung. Okay, I've never even heard this name, so we're gonna pick Joseph Walker as the home person. And look, we got some more stories up in here. And we've got quite a few photos. And look at this. You can see quite a few photos in here. So this is something that I think is really, really cool. This says I can go out. Now the photos could be pictures of wills or land records. It doesn't mean it's a personal photo. In fact, I can guarantee it's not, because there was no photography in the 1600s. So the photos are going to be of documents at this point. But still, that means that there's a lot of pictures, graphics that have the information sourced right here. That's really cool. And the sources. I mean, look at that source heat map. That is so cool. So cool. Anyway, so if you haven't checked it out, you want to check this out. But I'm going to give you one last big tip and tell you a little bit about it before we go. And of course, in the search, you can search records, family tree, genealogies, catalog, books. That's new. But this Research Wiki. Research Wiki gives you a brand new way of researching records. Now, this is good no matter where you are in the world. It comes up with this map, and you can click anywhere on here. So let's click on Europe, and then I can click on France, and then it's going to bring me up, the history of the French alphabet. It's going to bring me up, the different areas. Let's, pick a county there, and, it's got the history. And it tells me what region it's at, gives me records, clicks links to records, online database extracted records. Now, I don't speak French, so this would be really hard for me, but here extracts of births, marriages, and deaths of the parish. It goes back to 1542, and this is for everywhere, all over the world. And then France in general, French online records. Okay, so that is really, really handy. So oops, I went to Ancestry. So let's go back. I'm going to do the Research Wiki. I'm going to pick something in languages that I'm more fluent with, which would be English, American English. So I'm going to click over here on the United States. And, I had some ancestors. They moved and they went to Oklahoma, and they moved to Greer County. And so I'm going to tell you something that you can find here. So I clicked on Greer County, and I just wanted to know a little bit about their county. And this says right here, Greer County was created in 1886 as part of Texas. But then an act of Congress made it Oklahoma. And my ancestors actually moved in this time frame. So they actually moved to Texas thinking that they were part of the nation of Texas. And, well, actually, I guess it was after the nation. They'd already joined as a state. But Texas has this identity that they're still a nation, as well as, they joined by treaty. They didn't, they weren't a territory that, became made a state. They were actually a nation of Texas that joined. So, and they're pretty proud of that here in Texas. But, they moved to Texas, and then it was made into Oklahoma by the U.S. Congress. So I found that to be interesting. But then when I went and started looking at the boundaries and stuff, I found out some more information. But before we do that, let's look right here. Greer County, Oklahoma records. So if you can look for any county in the United States, or look in these places all over the world like we did for France. But it says the first census records for this region, 1860. The first probate, 1901. Land records, 86. Court records, death records, marriage records, birth records. It tells you all the records that you can find and when you can find them. Okay, so it tells you the main towns in it. Now, see right here, it's in the red right here. Actually, these three counties were all Greer County when it was Texas, all three of them. And the reason is right here, the Red River that borders Oklahoma and Texas actually forks and comes up around like this. And the Texas Constitution says that they went up to the Red River, and Oklahoma's Constitution said they went up to the Texas border. And so that was the ruling, that the South Fork was up to. Up to meant the first place that you reach the water, and so that was the South Fork. Well, Texas argued that they, went up to and included, but the Congress said that it didn't include. So they fought for this for a long time. How much did they fight about it? Look at right here. The Red River Bridge War. Oklahoma and Texas have a long history being rivals, both in athletics and in general. The Oklahoma National Guard, the Texas Guard, Texas Air Guard, Army Guard, Rangers, and Oklahoma National Guard faced off across the bridges between the two states. It was actually a war between the two states. Now, no shots were actually fired, but tanks and the military were on both sides, and you can read about it here. But I found all this information via the journey that I took from Family Search. I never found that on Ancestry. Didn't even know about a lot of this before then. But, is this really cool? Well, looky here. Adolf Hitler may have believed the events were evidence of infighting between the American states and a weakening union. And some people believe that this was one of the things that led him to believe that the United States would stay completely out of the war, and he could, have his will with what he was doing in Europe. So, that being the case or not the case, whether he did or didn't, finding out the history and going over here to Family Search, and then going up to that research wiki. So let's go back up to the page here. Well, that page isn't a good one to do. Yeah, come up here to search. Okay, go down to research wiki, which is the bottom one, and click on any place in the world, and you can find the information there. So you come here to Australia, going to Fiji, any place there. The Fiji Online Records gives you everything that Fiji would have, all the records that they have that are online for you to see. British Armed Forces, overseas marriages, 1818 to 2005, British born overseas. Any records that are there, you're going to be able to find. This is a treasure trove of information. If you're not using Familysearch.org, you're missing. I used to think that it was, Ancestry, and just like Ancestry and everything that it had, Ancestry had, and Ancestry has this nice clean, and don't get me wrong, this could be cleaned up and made to be a little bit prettier. But one of the reasons it's not pretty is there's just so darn much information here. It is a huge amount of information. They have their own private catalogs that they've digitized, just like Ancestry has theirs digitized. And only 10% of it is the same, 90% different. I cannot accent that enough, and how important that is. 90% is different, and it's free. Okay, just give them an email address, create a password, bang, you're in. add a couple of names, your parents, grandparents, link it to a tree that's already there, and start breaking through some of those brick walls you had. This is potentially something that can help you and the people you know tremendously. So pass this around. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends. I guarantee this is going to help some people. I look forward to hearing it. If it helps you, if you find out, you go to the tree and you connect to the tree, maybe a couple of weeks from now, and it helps you break through a wall here on Family Search, leave it in the comments below. I think other people would like to hear that too. I appreciate you all. Thank you for listening. And as always, you guys have a great weekend.